Hello, class of 2025. Welcome to this webinar. My name is Jen Wells, and I am the Chief of Staff for Alumni Engagement here at the UCLA Alumni Association. Your Alumni Association is here for you to take your first step into alumnihood, and we have so many resources here for you to support you along the way. Programs like this are a collaboration with our alumni staff and our amazing alumni volunteers who want to prepare you for the next steps, no matter where you go. We encourage you, hopefully you've been already receiving our amazing Class of 2025 newsletter emails, but also we encourage you to check out the Class of 2025 webpage for more resources and events specifically designed to celebrate you and your wonderful accomplishments. Your Bruin network is available for you to ask questions, to learn from, and to also make your plans as you move beyond Westwood. Today's conversation is just the start of how there are Bruins all over the world who are ready and waiting to help you. And so we hope that after this webinar, you'll stay connected with us and with each other. And with that, I will hand it over to Gloria.
Thanks so much, Jen. Welcome everyone to Beyond Westwood. Today's program, we will share tips, strategies, and insights from Bruins living in the Bay Area. Many of you are here today because you're interested or you're preparing to move to the Bay Area, and that can bring up lots of questions. Whether you're from there or you're going to be new there, we hope that today's program will bring insights from our alumni and give you the information you need to make this move with confidence and support. To introduce myself, I am Gloria Coe, Senior Director for Alumni Career Engagement at the UCLA Alumni Association. I'm a double Bruin with a BA in Communications and a Master's in Education, and I will be moderating the conversation today with our speakers, Marina Lemus, Class of '89, Emily Lemus, Class of '23, and Elizabeth Zachary, Class of 2004. For some housekeeping, we will begin our panel with some prepared questions guided by the submissions of our audience when you registered. But then after that, we will have a Q&A portion of the program. So if you'd like a question answered, please use the Q&A function below rather than utilizing the chat for questions. However, the chat is open. Introduce yourself, share where you're headed if you are moving up to the Bay, and we will be using the chat for engagement and asking you all questions to help guide our conversations. So let's get started. I want to invite our panelists to turn on their cameras and we will begin. Welcome, Bruins. Well, we're glad everyone is here today. So why don't we first start off with some introductions? If we could have each of you introduce your path of when you moved to the Bay, and then also whether that was after you graduated right away or if it was later. Share, how did you land and what was your path there? So why don't we start with, let's start with Emily.
Hi, my name is Emily. I graduated in 2023 with a BA in political science, and I moved straight back to the Bay Area after graduation as I'm a Bay Area native. So it made sense for me, one, to move home, but two, just because of the job opportunities in the Bay Area.
Fantastic. Next we'll do Elizabeth.
Hi, everyone. Elizabeth Zachary. And as I was introduced before, I graduated in 2004, so it's been a little while. I moved back in 2004, right after college, because I'm from the Bay Area. I always knew I was going to move back. And coincidentally, most of the friends I made in college were either from the Bay Area or San Diego. So it didn't really make sense for me to stay in LA anyway. I know we'll probably, I studied math, econ, and environmental studies, so double major. And I took the summer off when I moved home, which was great. It was a fantastic opportunity, and then started looking for jobs in the fall. But we can get into that more later.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we definitely will. Marina.
Hi there, I'm Marina Lemus, and I am class of '89, bachelor in sociology. And I am from LA, actually, originally born and raised. And I started my career in marketing and advertising, working at ad agencies in LA. And I'm going to age myself, guys, in 94 was when we started talking about the World Wide Web. And I decided that, oh my gosh, I thought this World Wide Web thing was going to be big and I wanted to work in tech. So I told my parents, I'm moving to San Jose. I'm going to go work in tech. And that's where I've been for the last 30 years working in tech.
Well, that's great. You made a good decision.
So you can work in tech even with a sociology degree.
That's true. That's true. Very nice. So we'll start actually with our first question. And my first question is actually around mindset, because I think before, many of us are very type A. We have our to-do list, we have our things to do. But I think the mindset shift that students make into being alumni and a new grad is an important one. And so what is one mindset shift you had to make or you encourage new grads to make during this time? Anybody want to go first?
I'll go first. So a full transparency, Emily is my daughter. I'm her mom. We're two Bruins in the same household. But Emily has a younger sister who is about to be a Bruin this fall. She's transferring. She just graduated from community college yesterday. And one of the things that I was saying to her earlier this week, she's placing so much pressure on this decision about her career and what she's going to take at UCLA in order to lay the foundation for what she's going to choose as a career. And I said, gosh, you're not really choosing what you're going to. She kept saying, it's going to be the rest of my life, Mom. It's going to be the rest of my life. And I said, no, it might be the next 5 years. But take that pressure off of yourself that the next job or the first job you get is going to define you or is going to define your journey, because it's not. It's just a path to getting exposure to things. It's a path to learning new skills and maybe adapting what your expectations, what you thought they were, and what now that you're in a job and you meet people, things are going to change. Your brain is going to open up to ideas and opportunities that you just didn't even know about because you're not in the work world yet. So I would just say, from a mindset perspective, take the pressure off. The first job does not have to be the end all be all. It's just an open door for you to then meet people and look around.
That's a great reminder, Marina. Thank you. How about you, Elizabeth?
Yeah, mine kind of tacks on to Marina's, and I don't know for the students who are on here if you feel this too, but I felt like almost starting in 4th grade, it was all about, what do I do to get into a good college? And then you get into college and I need to graduate and have a good major and get good grades, and you're really focused. So I almost felt like after graduation, I was like, now what? And it felt very overwhelming. And I think the mindset kind of ties into Marina's. You don't have to plan out your entire life right after graduation. If you move to the Bay Area and you end up getting a job somewhere else instead, a couple years later, that's fine. You can move. Like, there are a lot of opportunities out there. And so I think shifting your mindset of basically having everything planned out and just going, I'm going to live in the moment or in the next, smaller chunk of time, and getting that sorted out, I think that will really benefit you as well. And try not to feel overwhelmed by the uncertainty, because I know that's the kind of person I am.
No, that's great. How about you, Emily?
I would suggest, I like all of those are all very good pieces of advice. I would say, you don't need to do everything all at once. I know sometimes when you move here, I kind of want to, like, okay, I'm done with college. I want to do all the things that I want to do as an adult, make friends, find a job, get into a nice like gym routine, all of that stuff. It can take time to build up. You can slowly put the pieces of your life together. I'm living in the same bedroom I was since I was 10. And I've been telling myself I'm going to paint the walls and get new furniture for like a year now. And I still haven't, just because I'm focusing on other aspects of my adult life. So not everything has to happen all at once right as you graduate. You don't have to just like be great, I have to transition into this whole new part of your life. It can take months, it can take years. That's totally fine. We're all still very young. And all of my friends who are my age, we're all still figuring things out. People are moving here, they're leaving. There's a lot of different transitions still going on, even 2 years post grad.
No, that's everything you all have said. I think it's so applicable, because I think for many of our graduating seniors and even our grad students, again, you forget you were a freshman once where you didn't know what was going to happen and you were learning things still. And here you are 4 years, 2 years later, and you figure it out. And so now you're just figuring out something new. And so giving yourself that grace as well of you're in a learning posture, and we're going to be like that for our whole lives. And so enjoy, being in this new space. Commencement actually means the beginning. So it's actually, the beginning of this part of your life. So thank you. I think the changing of the mindset or helping us understand what this mindset shift can look like, I think sets us up to talk a little bit more about specifics and strategies. So this is actually a question for our attendees. If you can, share with us where you are right now. If you are currently, you have a job lined up, or you're going to be up in the Bay Area, uh, put a 1 in the chat, just letting us know, like you already know, like you're headed up there. For if you're still unsure and you're considering the Bay Area as a place you want to land, you can put 2. This is, again, you're just figuring, you're starting to plan, you're not sure yet. You can put 2. And if you want, put 3 if you're just here for the vibes, just to learn, just to hear what's going on. You haven't thought about that yet. So if you can, that would be great to add it into the chat just so we can see where you are. Okay. So with those kind of 2 scenarios in mind, for our panelists, uh, let's actually start with I don't have a job yet. But similar to some of your own personal journeys, you knew you were headed up to the Bay. And so you knew you were heading home, maybe landing somewhere with family. You don't necessarily have to figure out how to settle, like figure out where to live. You knew where you're going to live. But how did you decide, like, how to, like, kind of orient your life, right? Because it's not just it's this place that you're headed to is familiar, but your life is different. So how did you, like, sort out, like, settling into this new life that you had? Does that make sense? Does this question make sense? Like, you're in a place that you're familiar with, but you're in a whole new, like, phase of life. How did you balance that, and how did you decide on, like, how to, like, start this phase of life?
I can jump in first. And for all the students on here, I don't know if you're going to have similar, but I had a really close group of friends from elementary school. There was 10 of us who were all in Girl Scouts together. Almost all of us moved back to the Bay Area. And so I got super lucky because not only is my family here, but I had, like, built-in friends, plus the friends I made at UCLA, and some of whom I went to high school with. Like, a lot of people moved back because it's such a great place to live. So that made it easier from, like, a friend perspective. So I already had a group of people. I had talked to my parents and said, I want to take the summer because who knows when I'm going to have a nice chunk of time like this again, instead of trying to get a job right away. And it was fantastic because I was able to really relax, settle in, rebuild those friendships for the people who I hadn't seen in a few years, maybe spend time with my grandparents who were aging, and all of that. So that was amazing. And then I started looking for a job. So that's kind of how I managed to go through that transition. And so it felt like a slower transition because I got kind of my head in order, my life in order. I got that time to myself, and then it was focusing on the job search. So it kind of separated it into 2 different things.
That's great. How about you, Emily?
So I took the summer off between college. And started job search in August. So I spent that summer. My mindset was I'm never gonna have a summer off ever again, so I want to take it off. I I would honestly recommend against that unless you already have a job, because, and I'm sure a lot of you know almost graduates are gonna understand this. The It takes longer to find a job than you think.
Mm.
And honestly, you're going to want to break up the job search with, taking days off of that and just break up the monotony of having to constantly look for a job. So the earlier you start, you still have a lot of free time while you're looking for a job. You know, it's because you get to pace yourself. Are you spending how many hours a day are you spending? How many days a week are you spending? And so I would kind of just recommend if you're still looking for a job, just kind of slowly ease your way into doing it, but you don't a lot of I think students will probably think, "Well, I just want some time off. You know, I've been really grinding." And I think you'll find that it's still very relaxing to just do it part-time
Mm.
if you have that, you know, if that's good for your financial situation. If you already have a job, it's a little easier because you're going to get right into that work routine. It's going to kind of help set up that they help those routines and those habits and things like that. It's a little you really have to more structure yourself if you haven't secured a job yet.
That's great. I did want to also represent our folks who may have the job, but they actually don't know have a place to live. So, being Bay Area folks, do you all have any suggestions for them as maybe they are new to the Bay Area and they don't have a place to land, but they're going to start that process soon, or they are starting that process of finding a place to live. Does anyone have any like thoughts around that in terms of like figuring out what is a commute like, or how does that factor into where you land? Anyone have any thoughts to share about that? Marina, would you happen to like have thoughts around like if someone wants
Yeah.
to find a place in the Bay Area?
Well, I guess the first thing I feel like I need to let you know is that we have some social media networks that you should join, right? So on LinkedIn, we have a San Francisco Bay Area Bruins group that you can search and find and ask to join. And it's managed by me and Elizabeth. So one of us will approve you and let you in, and then you can feel free to make a post about housing, or hey, looking for somebody who might be willing to do. I would suggest asking for informational interviews from alumni, right? If they don't have a job they can refer you to or whatever, just hey, I'm really interested in so and so, you have an interesting job, could we have a 15-minute informational interview, and just start getting to know people. So our LinkedIn group is great for that. We also have a Facebook group. I know Facebook is like mostly for old people, but old people can help you find jobs, and old people can help you find housing. So I really would recommend also looking for our Bay Area group on Facebook. Because then again, Elizabeth and I approve that, and we'll let you in, and you can make posts about housing or jobs or questions you want to just field to other alums, right? You want to really embrace your Bruin network. There was something else I was going to say about, where to live. That's going to be, if you have a job, definitely use Google Maps to figure out commute time before you decide where to live. Commutes in the Bay Area are pretty bad. So you really don't want to live very far from your job. I would really, if you can, if possible, I would try to stay within a 15 to 20 mile radius. If you go any further than that, it's going to be longer than an hour each way. And so you probably don't, that's not great. So if you can avoid it, I would. And you will find in the Bay Area, there's kind of clusters of companies in different counties, right? Like San Francisco as a county, there's clusters of jobs, clusters of companies there. San Mateo as a county, there's kind of a clusters of companies in the San Mateo County, and then down San Jose, Santa Clara County, there's clusters of companies in Santa Clara County. And so maybe if you think of it in terms of like counties and clusters, Palo Alto is a great area as well. And if they have, so areas like Palo Alto, and even I would say Menlo Park, San Francisco, obviously, and maybe in the South Bay, I would probably say maybe kind of downtown San Jose is starting to get that direction. You want to find social outlets too, right? You don't want to live in suburbia with all the families and then feel like you have no one to connect with, right? So I would look to try and be in proximity to a downtown that has restaurants and bars and places that attract younger people, right? So you can find people and you can be out and about and socialize as well as, have a nice place to live.
That's really good
To
feedback.
tack on to that, I very strongly agree with Marina on live somewhere where you want to live. I, wherever you grew up, if you're moving back to the Bay Area and you have friends there and a support network or whatever, cool, great. Personally, I grew up on the peninsula. At one point, I moved out to the East Bay because of commute and for work. And I really didn't like it because I didn't know anyone. Nobody wants to cross the bridge. So if you're new to the Bay Area, keep in mind, people do not cross the bridge for you. Like that's not a thing. So it really is a barrier, and you have to keep that in mind with where you're going to live. I would say if you're looking at cities, or if you are going to be in the East Bay, staying closer to Berkeley or like the northern Oakland part, because there's a campus there tends to be younger people, and like there is that nightlife and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where I'd focus my housing search if you don't already know the area, and go near schools, or like Marina said, downtown areas where there's a lot more of a nightlife. And I think you'll find more younger people there, like people who are going to want to do the same things as you, or your friends being nearby. If you already have a job, I wonder if it's worth waiting and getting like a short-term lease somewhere near work, 3 months, 6 months even. And then after that, you can decide where to go. You might make friends with someone at work. My first job, was near where I lived, which was great. And almost everyone I was working with was my age. That was the best part about that job. The rest of it, not ideal. But everyone was my age. So we all went out almost every weekend. It was like a built-in network of friends, which was incredible and amazing. And, I'm still friends with a few of those people 20 years later. So I say, give yourself kind of an outlet where, oh, I'm not locked in for a super long time, so that if there is a different part of the Bay I want to live in, even having a longer commute, or there's another friend I want to live with, whatever that looks like, that may also help you down the road.
And I think also is tapping into this Bruin network, or even if you're nervous about your Bruin network, even your friend network or family network. My sister, she actually, when she moved to the Bay, she actually subletted a room from someone and learned how to live in the Bay first. And just like Elizabeth is saying, had a softer place to land, and then she ended up moving to where she ultimately would live. And so I think that's something too, is not to, you don't have to settle in and really like find a place you'll live in the next year. You could even find somewhere that's a little bit more short term, and it gives you that like soft place to land, get yourself to the Bay Area, and then you can start looking and like be and feel in the places that you are gonna to live in. Marina, were you gonna add something?
Yeah, I was going to build on what Elizabeth mentioned. Berkeley is a good place because it's close to a university. I would say the same thing about Palo Alto, right? Right next to Stanford. In San Francisco, you've got San Francisco State, UCSF, and University of San Francisco. And then even in Santa Clara, San Jose area, there's the University of Santa Clara. And those could be really prime areas to look for a sublet, right? Because those students, if they're sophomores or juniors and they rented a house, they're looking for a subletter for the summer. So that could be a good way to get a soft landing.
That's great. No, thank you, everyone. I feel, Emily, did you have anything you want to share? Any like suggestions for folks?
I guess I really like the suggestion of subletting, and just not, you don't have to stay permanently. I have a lot of friends who have already moved to different places in the Bay, or even out of the state within the year and a half that they've been living here, just because, um, especially if you're not from the Bay Area, you're not really familiar with the area, you're not really sure what areas you're gonna like. Some friends are fine sacrificing the commute times, and I had another friend who was like, I have a great commute, but honestly, I'm in the middle of nowhere, so I don't want to stay here long term in terms of like downtown and nightlife areas. So you really, if you know your preferences, that's already helpful. But if you don't know your preferences quite yet, being able to have that flexibility, is really important, because, yeah, people don't want to go across the bridge. And for me in San Jose, San Francisco is really far, despite the fact that I have friends in San Francisco. So it's just other things to consider when you're moving here.
Yeah, no, I've learned that if you live in the city and your friends live in the peninsula, there it's very rare they're gonna just, it's a weekend activity to see each other, not a evening activity to see each other. So yeah, so definitely something to think about. And of course also people work remotely sometimes, and you can have that flexibility and be close to your community. But no, I think all these thoughts around the living, living aspect of life after UCLA is so great. So thank you. Well, and I think we started talking around this. Emily had shared it around finding a job. What are some of the tips and strategies that you have and you suggest to our new grads around job search for those of our Bruins who maybe they know that they're coming back home to the Bay, but they don't have the job yet? What are some of your like strategies and tips for them as they begin this job search or continue this job search?
I would love to take this question. I think so. For transparency, I found my job search after hosting a happy hour from through the Bay Area Bruins. I actually found it from a fellow alumni there who his company was hiring at the time, and he was able to recommend me to their HR director. So to go off of that, I would say, and I know you always hear them, networking is a really big part of finding a job because people can help connect you to resources or job opportunities. And it's more personal and just feels more comfortable than just applying mass online. That is an option, but as you say, most people, I think there's like a very good statistic, like over half of people find their jobs from a connection they have or a connection that somebody else they know has. And so networking is really important, whether you're going to events or networking whatever community that you find. I would recommend when you move here, you want a community of people your age, but you also want to find a community of people who are older than you, because those are the people who are connected to job opportunities. These are the people who are possibly hiring. These are people who you can do informational interviews with and not just get career advice, but life advice. There's a lot to learn from people who are 10, 20 years older than you. And I personally have very much benefited from having a community of people who are like in their 40s, 30s, even have kids my age.
That's great. Thank you, Emily. Elizabeth?
Tacking on to that, wholeheartedly agree. A lot of it is about who you know, especially these days. Two things. One, start building up your LinkedIn. Make sure you're connecting with people you know who, honestly, who live everywhere, because you never know who they're gonna know. Because a lot of it is, oh, your dad's friend works at such and such place. Do you think he can refer me? Things like that. And most people are really happy to help college graduates, I've seen and experienced. So I think that's a great way to go about it. Like Emily said, Bay Area Bruins, great way to meet people. My biggest pet peeve with networking, and the reason I hate networking, but I'm actually like pretty good at it, is I don't like networking events because a lot of times it's just people going, here's my business card, and it's really fake. So to me, the best networking events are happy hours or like hikes, things like that, where you really get to know people and connect with them, because networking is really connections, not just here's my info, let's connect on LinkedIn, because that's so superficial. So I think as long as you put yourself out there, go to things. Go to things where you're going to meet people and introduce yourself. And I know how hard that is. Talk to, like Emily said, talk to people of varying levels of, professional, where they are in their careers, and see what's out there. Also, from a job perspective, similar to Emily, like maybe mine was maybe slightly different. I had no idea what I was going to do after college. I was so focused on college. I didn't know what I wanted out of my career. I still don't, and I'm in my 40s, so don't worry. And I think that's completely okay. It doesn't matter what your major is. A lot of these entry level jobs you can just apply for, and it really, like, when I started, I was at a finance firm. There was a biology major, there was me, there were, an English major, some math majors, business majors, like all over the place. And that's where I met so many great people. And my next job came from that, because the wife of someone I was working with, I was like, her job sounds amazing. Maybe I should do that. And when something opened up about a year and a half after I'd been there, she was like, apply. And I got the job and was there for 5 years. So I say, my career path is kind of random and all over the place, but it's because I like challenges and something new. So just don't be afraid to just go for whatever's available. And if you don't like it, you don't have to stay. Like, give it 6 months, give it a year, keep applying for other jobs. It's fine. Like, it doesn't burn bridges, or, people are like, don't burn bridges. Honestly, it's fine. Just saying, I don't think this is working out for me. I found this other position that's a better fit is completely reasonable.
That's great insight. Thank you. Marina, you want to share something?
Sure. I want to build on what Elizabeth's talking about. I think uh, kind of in that same vein of mindset, like you're not solving for forever, you're just solving for right now. Um, true transparency. I have had at least 14 different companies that I've worked for, yeah, over the course of, 30 some years. I've been laid off. I can't even remember anymore. 5 or 6 times I've been laid off. And, but it doesn't take me down because, and kind of like what Liz was saying, like you won't burn bridges by changing jobs because everyone's changing jobs anyway, whether voluntarily or involuntarily. So one way that I like to look about it is skills. You're just collecting skills. And when you think about your story, your Bruin story, it's going to be about what skills you've acquired. And at job number 1, you're going to acquire these 3 skills. And then when, for whatever reason, you want to leave that, or it comes to an end, whether you chose it or not, you go to the next thing, you're going to add more skills and different skills. And all of those things become a string of things that you now have familiarity with, you know how to do, and that contributes to the value you bring to the 3rd job. So I always like to storytell in my interviews. I don't say I got laid off, right? I don't talk about that. I say, hey, at this job, here's what I was able to accomplish. And at this job, here's what I was able to accomplish. And I learned this skill and I have this skill. And so it just builds. So it's really just the framing that you put around it. Nothing has to be a weakness because you learn something everywhere you go. So anyway, that's what made me think of as Elizabeth was talking. It's not, it may not look linear, but I have always been able to talk about it as a story of my journey, and then people kind of warm up and go, "Oh yeah, that was kind of brilliant." I worked at Cisco for 10 years. Cisco is a huge company, 60,000 employees, right? And then I wanted to go to a small company. So then I went to a company with like 1,000 employees, and that 1,000 still sounds like a lot, but it's a lot less, right? It's a lot smaller teams that I was working with. I had to be more scrappy. We had less budget. We had less headcount. I had to wear 5 different hats in the job that I was doing. And so then I had this whole series of my career where I worked at smaller size companies. And then I described myself as entrepreneurial and resourceful and adaptive. So all of these things are just like the journey as you become a mature person in the workforce. And so just think about skills. Don't necessarily think it's a linear title progression. It may not. And that's okay. It's actually more interesting, I think, if you work in a couple different departments gaining skills.
And I think, that's fantastic. I think the whole the concept around gaining skills, I think is so important. Sometimes I think many people, we are UCLA, we want to be we're a big name school, we want to go to a big name company. But sometimes in a big name company, you don't have access to specific projects and tasks because there is so many employees or it's very hierarchical. Whereas if you're in a smaller mid-sized company, you might actually have access to do things that you wouldn't at a large company, or even people and levels of people that you wouldn't necessarily have. So I think the Bay Area is such an interesting place because there's, obviously tech is the big industry that's there, but there's a diversity of tech companies. And so as you are looking at roles and positions, if it's not a big company that it's not those big tech companies that you recognize, but if you look at the responsibilities, you can see, oh, I can do all these things. You put those things on your LinkedIn, you bet recruiters will see that from the big companies and say, oh, I want you to do this for us. So see it also as steps, not necessarily your first step is like, it has to be the big fish because that's what I'm used to is being at a big name. And so, but also know too that if it is in a bigger company, knowing that you are growing and that you are maybe doing something that you thought, oh, I shouldn't do something like this, but knowing that you're starting fresh. And so having the humility to say, hey, this is what I'm doing, but I'm in the door. So let me just really like sit in this position and really like learn. So no, I think everyone's what you've shared around the job search, I think is super important. What Emily's saying too, start like part-time, you don't have to, and also getting your resume in order, getting your LinkedIn in order. Because once you're in a networking situation and they say, hey, I can take your resume now. Can you send it to me? And you're like, oh, it's not ready. And then you take 2 weeks, the opportunity may have already passed. So having all your materials ready and up to date so that when you are in these positions to meet people, you're ready to go. So I think if anything, the job search is a great opportunity for you to be, it's like staying ready, but then also being open to opportunities as well. So, but yeah, Marina.
Um, Small companies. You're reminding me that my first job in advertising was as an admin assistant. And I took that job, even though I got criticized from my friends who had also graduated from college, same year I did. And they kind of looked down on me that I was settling. And I approached it very differently. It was Ogilvy and Mather. Ogilvy is one of the top ranked global ad agencies, right, in LA. And at Ogilvy, I was an admin assistant, but I took that job because it was on the Microsoft account. And I knew it was a foot in the door. So I was okay. My friends did not understand it. They're like, why you are settling? Why are you settling? You shouldn't be going in as an admin. And I thought, why not go in as an admin? I'm going to look around. I'm going to gain the skills. I'm going to meet the people at Microsoft. Are you kidding? So that really served me. That really set me up to succeed, because in an ad agency, it's a smaller environment than like a big tech company. I got to learn a lot of things, and I got exposure to not just Microsoft, but also Korean Air and Paramount and Mattel, all the other clients that they had. And I would say that's somewhat similar to Emily's current job. And she might want to talk a little bit about that. It's a smaller company than she thought she would go work for, but she's getting exposure to a lot more than she would at a larger company.
That's great. Emily, do you want to share about that?
I do. I took a job, my first job that I'm still in for just another 2 weeks actually. Was at a very small company. It's like less than 200 people. We're a marketing promotional management company. And I took it reluctantly. I needed a job at this point. It's January and I've graduated in June. But after like, I want to say about a month, I realized there's a lot of potential for the job because my company, while small, has a lot of big clients. And so I started focusing on performing really well in my job so that I could find a way to transition into a more client facing role, which I actually have successfully transitioned into. And so I just, with some mentorship from people who are more experienced in their job, I guess just their careers and their life, and kind of they're able to see the big picture that I'm not able to. I took advantage of making good relations in my company and building really good rapport with our project managers and our account executives and all of that stuff, and my manager, so that I could really create a path for myself to move forward and gain more experience.
That's great. And again, it's all a journey. And I think for many of us, we think like, oh, we have to check it off the list. We got to get the job. But ultimately, too, these jobs lead to next jobs and next jobs. And so, enjoy this process as well. I think I really liked all the different suggestions you all gave. So I do, though, want to move into our next topic, which is around building community, because I think many of you, all of you, are engaged with the Alumni Network. Emily mentioned too that she hosted an event and that really helped her with her networking. How did you all get involved with the network, and how do you suggest that our new grads get involved? What's the best way to do that?
So I joined, I think it was like 2011 now, it was a long time ago. And I actually just started going to events. This was, I don't even remember how I heard about the event because it was before the way we have our emails go out now. But I went to a book club. I started going. Turns out the president of the club was there, and she was like, "You should be involved, help us out with stuff. So I started going to meetings, became more involved, and now, I've been here for what feels like forever. And I have made some really close friends through the group itself, actually, which is fantastic. And I think, that's a good way for you to meet other alumni of all ages. The reality is our meetings, I would love to have you join, but our meetings are not the place to get to know everyone and see if you think you're a good fit. Come to the happy hours, come to the other stuff that we host, meet the people who are on the board, and just see if you want to get involved and start thinking about, oh, I'd like to volunteer, or you just come to events. Either way, completely up to you. But I think that's really a good way to grow the network. And you can subscribe through the alumni portal by updating your address. So then you automatically, and opting in to emails, then you would get everything that's going out to the Bay Area. And we do try to host events throughout the Bay. We know it's pretty large. So that we'll have North Bay, San Francisco, South Bay, Peninsula, East Bay, all of those type of events. And, if you're open to volunteering for events, we're going to need help over the summer at our new Bruins send-offs for all the new kids. So thanks, guys, for letting me plug that. But for all the new incoming students, it's really fun to get to talk to them, see how excited they are. You probably attended a send-off at whatever region you were at. That's a great way to start getting involved. And again, meeting people, because that's kind of what it is get out of the house, meet new people. I met a lot of my current friends are through my jobs. So I think don't discount trying to make friends with people at work too. Like sometimes people are like, oh, I don't cross that line. There's no line. Just make friends. Like it doesn't really matter because you're not going to, in most instances, work with them forever. And even if you do, so what? Then you work with your friend. It makes it really fun. I like to bring my lunch. This is probably too much detail. I prefer to bring my lunch. I started finding places where I was allowed to bring my lunch and other people could buy lunch. And that's how we would manage. So I could still have lunch with people without having to spend a ton of money. And sometimes I would participate and, do things like that. So anyway, that's what I think. But, and again, building that network, like I said, is not about just checking the box of I got somebody's name, they work at such and such company. It's really get to know them, do like the same thing, make it authentic. If you can't connect with a person, just move on. If you're talking to someone at an event and it's just like, hey, we're not clicking, it's okay. Go talk to the next person. Not a big deal. You don't have to connect with everyone or network with everyone. Really build the legitimate connections and it will be so worth it.
Marina or Emily, do you have any thoughts around building community and getting involved with the network?
I would say getting involved with the network, we do host some events that are geared towards younger alumni. I host happy hours. We have other alumni who host happy hours at bars. Sometimes they're bars that we know are more popular for the younger crowd, so we can really kind of encourage that space for the young, for the younger alumni. So I would say just find an event that looks interesting. And honestly, if there isn't an event that looks interesting to you, go to an event and then find a board member and say, hey, I'm interested in just doing this at such and such date. We'd love to put something on the calendar. We recently had I think she's a 2024 graduate who went to a happy hour a couple months ago, and her and two friends are now putting together another happy hour geared towards younger alumni because they want to meet more people their age. And so we're always super open to helping just create that community and being that, we'll help you do the communications and the promotionals if this is something that you want to do so you can meet other people your age. But then I guess beyond the network is just finding a sense of community in general. You just have to show up somewhere on a regular basis, honestly. Find a book club. I personally found a gym that I really liked. Join an activity, go play pickleball or tennis, or you just have to show up somewhere on a regular basis, because the more you show up, you'll meet the people who also show up there on a regular basis, and you guys will recognize each other and get to talking. And so there's a lot of merit to just keep pursuing the same thing over and over again until you see the fruits of your labor.
That's a really good tip. Just keep showing up because people will recognize you and they'll want to talk to you. They'll want to get to know you. So I love that. Marina, did you want to share anything?
This question just reminds me, I don't know if everybody knows, there's actual research on this that for our own human, like healthy mindset and sense of belonging, we have to belong to a multiple communities in order to feel like we are, I don't know, just like settled in the world, or that we, like you said, we need that sense of belonging. So whether it's, okay, my alumni network can be a community, your gym can be a community, maybe there's a church community, maybe there's a book club in the community, maybe there's a sport you like to play. Like, try and think about at least, I would say, 4 or 5 communities that you'd want to have in your life. They don't all have to be weekly, right? It could be, some maybe are quarterly, some might be bi-monthly, but having groups of people that are part of your holistic self are really, really important just for us as humans. So it's just a good practice. So if you're feeling isolated and you're feeling like, gosh, how come I don't feel connected? Think about being a little more intentional about rounding out what you create as your communities.
I love that. I think all the things that you've all shared is so important. And whether the network is a community that people want to join, again, raise your hand, volunteer. I've shared many a times, by volunteering, you actually make it so that everyone has to talk to you. If you're working check-in, everyone has to come by and say hello, and you get to meet everyone, and you'll know who they are, and you'll write their name tag, and you will know exactly who they are, and it's an easy way to get to know people. And so many people think like, oh, let me get involved with the network once I have everything figured out. But actually, you don't need to have everything figured out to get involved. You can get involved, and again, what they're saying, just come to events, or if you want to volunteer for something, let them know. And so I think, if anything, don't wait until you're ready to jump in. Just get involved and stay on the emails and all of that, and offer your help. So one more question before we open ourselves to the Q&A. Um, what about the Bay Area makes it a unique place to start your career and start the next phase of your life for our students? I guess for many people, they're saying, if they are returning home, and many of you have, what made you stay? What has kept you in the Bay Area? And what about it have you loved the most? Anyone?
I can start. What I love about the Bay Area, um, I think I just love the environment here. You have a lot of access to a lot of different, I guess, places, I would say, where you're gonna have a hobby. There's hiking and there's mountains, but then if you go over into Santa Cruz, there's beaches. And honestly, the mountains that are just behind me in Saratoga and the Santa Cruz Mountains aren't the same that are in San Francisco or across the bay in Berkeley and Oakland. So I really love the diversity of environment. We are only like 5 hours away from Lake Tahoe. And so I have friends who uh they went skiing for the first time ever because they never lived anywhere near snow, um, just for a weekend. So I really love the environment and just all the things that you're able to do outside of work. I know a lot of people move here for work. There's great job opportunities here. But there's a lot of other benefits. I know some people don't love that there's a lot of suburban pockets, but you know what? Sometimes I just like the suburban pockets because they have nice little downtown areas where you can walk around, and they have nice parks and things like that. So there's a lot of different perks, I think, that come with living here, just besides like career opportunities.
And also suburbia, you have a Target, you have a Whole Foods, you have a Home Goods, you have
Yeah.
all the stores right where you need them, and it's easy, and parking's easy. So there's nothing wrong with that. So it's great. Marina or Elizabeth, do you have anything you want to share about?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Emily. The best part is just that there's so much variety. So work, you can do almost anything here. There's nothing holding you back. And then, in terms of everything else that you're doing, I do feel like the Bay Area is kind of ahead of the game on, what's trending, I guess. And like, I feel like I started hearing pickleball years ago, and all of a sudden it's just taken off. And, frisbee golf was a huge thing a few years ago that took off. There are just so many different things, and you get the big city you get San Francisco, San Jose, Oakland, Walnut Creek, those bigger areas where they have, the symphony, or they have their own ballets, they do plays. You can go to, a more expensive play in San Francisco, or you can go to a little playhouse in Mountain View and see something that's equally as good. And so I just think the variety you get in terms of anything you want to do, you can find it, which is rare. You can go to the ocean, you can go to the mountains. Like there's, again, like Emily was saying, like so many things you can do, which really helps, I think. And honestly, you can't beat the weather. I love the weather here. Although there are pockets, if you don't know the Bay Area, Peninsula has the best weather in my opinion. But again, I'm biased because I grew up here. San Jose gets too hot for me. East Bay gets too hot for me. San Francisco is kind of cold. Don't discount San Francisco being cold. Always bring a sweatshirt. Also, anywhere you go at night, bring a sweatshirt or a jacket. It will get cold when the sun goes down, no matter how hot it was during the day. North Bay is nice, little wetter. So, you're going to learn that when you get here, but, and you basically get whatever you want. There are places you can live. You're always going to find a job somewhat near where you live. I find a good restaurant. Love the food here. Again, can't be beat, I think, in terms of variety. So just the amount of opportunities here across the board is, by far the best, I think.
Marina?
I would just say we've talked a lot about the weather and the environment, but I would even say the people. I think one of the things that surprised me most when I moved here, when I first moved here and I was at my first job and I had made somewhat friends with one of my coworkers, they invited me to their house on a Saturday for a barbecue. And so it was like, oh my gosh, it was going to be like my first social on the weekend. I had just moved here and there were going to be coworkers there. But she also invited like her friends who worked at other places. And I remember that gathering, and I met so many people from so many different companies. Everybody, and I'm going to say this, I hope it doesn't like surprise or make anybody feel uncomfortable. Everyone was a high performer. Like everyone was ambitious. Everyone's got goals. Like you meet people, you'll meet people at the gym. Like, oh, you work at NVIDIA. Oh, you work at Apple. Oh, you work at ServiceNow. Oh, you work at Visa. Oh, you work at you just run into them. Everybody's working at an impressive job at an impressive company, and you're working out next to each other. And it's just, that's the way it's going. And so I like that because I've learned that I level up when I am not the smartest person in the room, right? I like being around people who challenge me. That's why you got into UCLA in the first place. And so you've been around it on campus, and maybe you're thinking you're a little tired of it right now, and maybe you want to break from that, and that's totally fine. But at the end of the day, after you've come over the hangover of getting through graduation, you're going to want to be challenged again. Because you've got the bug for it, right? You want to learn, you want to keep growing. And so I think it's important to surround yourself with people who will continue to grow you. And we have a lot of that in the Bay Area. A lot of people who are just like, yeah, I'm gonna learn that AI and we're gonna figure it out together, right? Yeah. So I like being in the Bay Area for the people.
That's wonderful. No, again, fantastic reasons why the Bay Area is a great place for our students and our new alumni to head to. I wanted to open it up for anyone who may have a question for our panel. You can utilize the Q&A function in the bottom part of the screen if you want to add in a question for our panelists. But I actually will, while we let people do that, I do have some questions around we had someone ask around work-life balance. How do you all, because like find that in balancing work and life? What are your potential strategies, or what do you do to have that balance in work and life? Or do you have balance?
I have a lot of thoughts here.
Yeah.
I am the person who works to live. I don't live to work. So I set very clear boundaries with my teammates, kind of upfront in as nice a way as possible. it's a little trickier depending on what you're doing. Like my current job, almost everybody is in Asia, and that changes the time for me. So I can't set the same boundaries I did in my last job. So you have to take everything with a grain of salt and know what works in the role you're in. My previous job, I told everyone after 6 p.m., I'm not checking my email. If you text me, it has to be urgent, and I will check. Or if like I know I'm waiting on something, I'll check. Like obviously I'm reasonable about it. But everybody knew that, my other boundary was I will respond within 24 hours. So if you ping me and you don't give me a set time that you need me to respond by, I'm going to assume it's 24 hours. And so it came, it takes people a little while to get used to things if you set boundaries, because it's really hard in this day and age to have boundaries. And don't let people bully you or push your boundaries. You can be really nice to people and just go, hey, I don't check my email after 6. I really need that time for me. If something's urgent, and you tell them how to reach you in an alternative way, I would say you can text me because I won't be checking. And if somebody does it a lot, what I tell them is, if everything's a fire drill, nothing's a fire drill. So you really, like, everybody has to know that. And, I worked at Spec Products, phone cases. I was like, this is not life or death, it's plastic. So like kind of help everyone reframe, what's going on. And I think that really helped. And then for my own mental health, I knew I set this boundary. Nobody's expecting me to get back to them. It's okay. So, I think that really helps. And if you figure out what works for you. If you are uncomfortable letting things go overnight and you'd rather get something done the night before, do it. But again, focus on what works best for you, not what works best for everybody else, because you're the one who has to live with it. And you're going to get burnt out if you're not careful. Also, take your vacations. I am constantly running out of vacation. I don't understand people who are maxed out in the vacation that they have accrued. Take the time. Like, there is a reason that other countries give people so much more time off, and they have to take it because it really is better for you. Go on that trip with your friends, or even just relax at home if you can't afford to take a trip somewhere. Whatever you can do, take your vacations, really relax, turn off, don't check your device, or maybe check it once during the trip. That's what I do. Like, I check like on Wednesday if I'm gone for a week, and I'm like, okay, what am I in for when I get back? Or is there anything I really need? And really, again, set those boundaries for yourself and for everybody else. And I think it'll make a world of difference.
Fantastic. Well, we are out of time. And so I want to thank our amazing panelists for their giving so much of their time and their insights. Before we end, though, I did want to share a couple of things and resources that we had talked about today. And so if you are a new grad, the Alumni Association does have new grad tools that are available for you, like our job search starter kit. We have different webinars and different things that you could utilize in your job search. So definitely check that out. Also, the class of 2025, we have a page for you with events and initiatives to celebrate and guide you during this time. So definitely check it out. We'll have the graduation week celebration. We'll have different giveaways and things like that just to celebrate you. Also, I have information here around the San Francisco Bay Area network. We have, again, thank you to our panelists who represent this amazing network. You have Bruins wherever you are going, and you definitely have a strong contingent of Bruins in the Bay Area. It's the second largest contingent of Bruins in the world. So we have a lot that stay in SoCal, but so many Bruins are in NorCal. So definitely get involved and check it out. And also UCLA One. We added this link into the chat earlier. UCLA One is our own platform that you can connect with Bruins. We have Bruins in this that have raised their hand to say, I can do mock interviews. I can review your cover letter and resume. I can do informational interviews. Emily talked around informational interviews. Connect with Bruins. They want to help you, and you're in the perfect time of life to get that help. So don't give them the opportunity to help you because they want to do that. And then also, I wanted to just have a visual here. If you are interested in subscribing to the Bay Area, the network, If you go to their page, at the bottom here is a subscribe button. Click on that and that will take you to the alumni portal, and that will give you the opportunity to update your information. Whether if you know you're going up to the Bay Area but you're not quite sure where yet, put whatever address that you do know of, maybe your family's address or siblings or whoever you're going to. You could add that and you can always change it later. But then that ensures that you're going to get the emails from this network. You're going to get all the things that are happening in your area. So thank you again, everyone, for coming today. Thank you to our wonderful panelists. We hope that, again, Bruins get engaged. Jump in. The water's warm. You have Bruins that are ready to welcome you in the Bay Area, and we're so thankful for them today. And we look forward to you getting involved and engaging with us in the future. So have a good night. Have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend, and go Bruins!